Our devotional today is about hearing the voice of God. In the Hebrew Bible book of 1 Kings, Elijah the prophet is on the run from Queen Jezebel because of the defeat of the prophets of Baal. Elijah has demonstrated that his God is God and not the Baal God, resulting in the death of all the priests of the Baal God. And fearing for his life, Elijah's on the run, and he runs and he hides in a cave. And there's where we pick up the story in 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 9. We read these words, "There he, Elijah, came to a cave and lodged in it. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?' And he said, 'I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I, only am left. And they seek my life to take it away.' And he said, 'Go out and stand on the mount before the Lord.' And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountain and broke it to pieces, the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, the sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak, and he went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice to him and said, 'What are you doing here, Elijah?'" In our small group, we are studying hearing the voice of God and how to hear it. Specifically, we're working through Mark Batterson's book titled Whisper, How to Hear the Voice of God. Notice here in 1 Kings, God's voice was not in all the loud noises going off around Elijah. God's voice was not in the wind. God's voice was not in the exploding rocks on the mountain. God's voice was not in the earthquake. God's voice was not in the fire. But God's voice was in the sound of a low whisper. How could Elijah hear God's whisper in all the noise that was going on around him? I think Elijah knew God's voice and could discern God's voice, and that's how he was able to hear the low whisper of God. I think Elijah had developed the ability to hear the voice of God because he sought it out. Mark Batterson writes on page 46 of his book, "Listening does not happen by default. It happens by design." Elijah, the prophet of God, was committed to hearing the voice of God. It was by design, not default. When Elijah says that he was jealous for the Lord, the God of hope, it means that he, by design and not by default, was desiring to hear God and to listen by running after God. It was by design, not default. Does God speak to us today? Have you the desire to hear him speak? Have you designed your life in such a way as to have the ability to hear God's voice, not by default, but by design? Might I encourage you to design your life in such a way as Elijah's was designed in order to hear the whisper of God's voice speak to you. Peace and blessings, Pastor Scott. Thanks for watching these devotional videos. If you would like to see more of them, please make sure you click the subscribe button to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to hear or be notified of those devotionals and messages that we post on that channel. Also, if you like this video, make sure to click the like button and follow us on our Facebook page. Peace and blessings, Pastor Scott.